I'm Gabriel Krishak, Senior Director of Global Technology at RTI International. For the last few years, ICT4D as a sector, as we know it, has been on life support, and in fact, it might already be dead. What has been a research discipline, a community of practice, and a rallying ideology for the importance of thinking of the intersection of technology and development, it just seems to be less useful, less relevant, and less engaging as a term in the organizations and programs that we all work in. But rather than mourn its passing as a useful concept completely, I would actually argue that the fundamentals underlying ICT4D are stronger than ever. It's just that they've been transformed, they've matured, and they've been integrated into other sectors. So much like the death of Superman here, while it might feel impactful at first, we realize that what we're seeing is just a transition more than anything else. I have been working on ICT4D or ICT4D adjacent areas for 17 years, and I, like many of you, have acted as a champion, translator, and ambassador for our 5-letter acronym FRIEND. The thing rolls off my tongue now like an ill-worn intern suit at USAID. I've described and defined ICT4D for so many communities, clients, colleagues, and C-suites alike in just an ongoing effort to highlight the value of an ICT4D focused lens on countless projects and programs around the world. So what is it that we're even talking about, and why would we mourn its passing in the first place? So ICT4D, Information and Communication Technology for Development, really goes back as early as computing to a recognition that perhaps technology could play a pretty pivotal role in improving the human condition. We tend to think of the term as arising in the 1990s with the proliferation of computing and the internet around the world. The focus of ICT4D then was just a really explicit focus to get technology into quote-unquote development outcomes. But really, ICT4D 1.0, as coined by Richard Heeks, who I think has the best framework for the history here, started in the 2000s. This was the era of telecenters and cyber cafes, of top-down interventions, the Millennium Development Goals, and projects like the OLPC, or One Laptop Per Child. But we didn't get too comfortable because there were these little devices that were going to change everything and move everything aside. So this was the era of ICT4D 2.0. And this really came around the 2010s in earnest. And the focus here was just on integrating technology into the development programs. This was the era of the E's and the M's, right? The e-government, e-health, e-learning, m-health, m-education, just to name a few. So now there was a focus on people as individuals with agency, with preferences, and with a unique cell phone number. And frankly, this is where a lot of organizations still find themselves, this 1.0 or 2.0 kind of world, right? The idea has been that this whole technology thing, the digital tools, the data integration, that they all serve as supplements or even add-ons to quote unquote the traditional work of international development. And what's happened is that digital hasn't just become a component to something that we're doing, it's become the thing that we're doing. It's become part of everything. It has shifted from being a separate entity to being an essential component of almost all aspects of international work. So the digital tools, data, and software has eaten the world, and it's eaten our global development world. It's no longer about one-off digital platforms or a tool here or there, right? It's this all-consuming landscape of digital transformation where technology has been seamlessly woven into and mediated every aspect of our lives. And it goes without saying that that's not always a good thing, but it has tremendous and profound impacts. We can see how big this umbrella of ICT4D is supposed to be by just listing all the things that are supposed to fit under the term now. And this is just a sampling of categories that I've come up with. I'm sure you can think of others. So in addition to becoming bigger, it's also just become a lot more complex. So actually, maybe it's not even that it's more complex, just that we've recognized the complexity that was there all along. That technology is not just neutral, that it's an amplifier, that it's a wicked, complex, adaptive system. And we weren't even comfortable with telecenters to mobile phones to now we have AI. And it's currently being rocked by the tidal wave that is generative AI. And this is just another new part of the paradigm that's having profound implications for this space in what feels like being upturned on a daily basis at this point. So where does that leave us, and where does that leave ICT4D? I think it's too much to put on the shoulders of this term. The landscape has become bigger, more complicated, more diffused, and more specialized. It's just time to acknowledge that ICT4D has spun off into multiple related disciplines, practices, and sectors, and it's going to continue to do so. Our burden as a community is more important than ever. We have to still ensure that our digitally enabled world is framed by inclusion, equity, responsibility, and that it continues to be bent for good. So while ICT4D as we know it is dead, the spirit of ICT4D is alive and well and continues to evolve and adapt to the ever-changing global and digital landscape that we live in. So like this mid-journey phoenix rising from the ashes, we have to make sure that what comes next is stronger and more committed to solving the challenging, multifaceted, and entrenched problems of today with new approaches, new mindsets, and most importantly of all, new acronyms. Thank you very much.